Running is a super popular sport in and of itself, and many field and court-based sports require running as part of their sport as well. However, running-related injuries are very common, and if you don't respect the rehab process, rehabbing running injuries can prove very difficult. And if you're someone who struggles with pain or re-injury while trying to return to running at your normal training volume, it's probably not because it's the running that's the problem. In this video today, I am going to explain to you what the biggest issue is when you're trying to return to running. And I'm going to teach you how to overcome this issue without having to worry about consistent, recurring injuries going with it. First things first, running pain and injuries are super common, so don't think you're an outlier here. It's one of the most popular sports when it comes to both participation but also injury rates. The thing is, when you have pain or injury from a running sport, it doesn't necessarily mean because you're fragile or damaged or broken. And every time you suffer a painful flare-up from running, it doesn't mean that you've also caused yourself a re-injury. Here's the thing, most of the setbacks you will get from returning to running after injury are more of a progression problem rather than a tissue damage problem. Here's the mistake, the number one mistake that people make when they're going to return to run training, and this is waiting till you are 100% ready to return to running. Waiting till you feel 100% ready to return to running is an issue because A, you've taken probably a fair bit of time off running to wait until you feel good again. And during that time, your tolerance is going to take a sharp downturn because you haven't been running. But then the major mistake that comes from this mindset and action is because you will probably go back and return to your normal running volume pretty quickly, if not straight away, from returning to running again. And if you're not returning to running at your normal volumes, you're probably chasing the same level of pace or the same level of frequency as well. So you're trying to keep those variables up near that tipping point, which could have probably caused you an issue in the first place. And this is an absolute recipe for disaster. If you return to running after time off and you're pushing your volume, your intensity, and your frequency all together, you're probably going to see yourself back on the sidelines pretty quickly. And it comes from, yes, your symptoms have settled, but the tolerance has dropped. So your ability to actually handle that running load is less than what it was when you originally got injured in the first place. So you need to reframe how you're thinking about this. You need to think more along the lines of, how can I tolerate more running volume or more running frequency or more running intensity or all three? Rather than thinking, how can I just get out of pain and be able to run normally? So how do we get back to running without re-injury? Step one, you need to establish a baseline. You need to start below your current levels of tolerance. So take what you think you can do and start with less. And usually with the athletes I see, I recommend anywhere from 30 to 50% less, depending on what your mentality is when it comes to running training. Especially if you're someone who doesn't have a coach to program for you and you either program yourself or you just go and run feeling whatever you feel like you should do that day. Regardless, if you think you can do this much, take a big chunk of that down and start from there. Use that as your baseline. And this is because most people overshoot way too early and it causes them to suffer a flare-up or a major re-injury or some kind of other setback that interrupts the ability to build consistent running. You are much better off finishing your first few sessions or even most of your sessions feeling like you could have done more. All you need to do is go out there and tick one box, win the day, let your body recover and adapt, and then tick another box the next day. To start, you could simply use less running distance or less running intensity, or you could even do run-walk intervals if you're someone who believes that they can't run any slower than what they already do. Just pick a scheme that allows you to do less than what you're currently used to and allow your body to adapt to that and progress over time. Step number 2, do not be a hero. You need to prioritize consistency. You need to avoid hard runs or testing runs just because you feel like you want to know where you're at. They're not necessary during that early rehab phase. Your goal should be to build repeatable exposure, something that you can do, recover from, and then repeat that multiple times in a week. These runs need to be tolerable. We don't want you going out there and just doing massive hard efforts. One hard effort doesn't make you any better. Maybe even 2 or 3 doesn't make you any better, and you're more likely to overcook it. So don't be a hero, just start with less. Step 3, you want to progress gradually. You have the luxury of choosing whether you're going to progress on your distance or your pace or your frequency, so how many days per week you're running. This is great because it gives you a little bit of leeway and a little bit of choice in the variables in which you choose to progress. However, the biggest issue that can be found here is when you try to progress multiple variables all at once. Just pick one, take the win, and then move on and continue progressing yourself forwards. Step number 4, you need to properly monitor how your body responds to your training. You need to focus on how are you feeling during the run, how are you feeling after the run or later on in the day, and then how are you pulling up the next morning. You have to remember that sometimes you will get small spikes in symptoms, and that's okay. Just pay attention. How your body responds over the following 24 to 48 hours matters much more than what's happening in that moment, provided you're staying within a tolerable limit. Remember, the goal is to stack up consistent sessions across the course of a week or a fortnight or a month, and make sure that you're tracking how you feel during all of these and taking that data on how you've pulled up from all of these runs, so then you can make meaningful decisions on where you want to go. Step 5, do not panic if something flares up. It is almost inevitable that you will suffer a flare up at some stage, so do not panic when this happens. If you're starting to push your running a little bit harder, whether that again is volume, whether it's intensity or whether it's frequency, you will probably reach a point where you do slightly overcook it eventually, as long as you don't do that from day one. But as I said, if you do overcook it slightly and you get a flare up in symptoms, do not panic. This doesn't necessarily mean that you've damaged something. It often just means that your loading has slightly gone above what your current tolerance levels are. The key here is just to slightly adjust the plan if need be. Do not throw the baby out with the bathwater and crack the shits and then decide that you're going to just completely rest and start from square one again in 2 weeks' time. They are the steps you need to follow to get yourself back to where you need to be. Now, what are the common mistakes? These are the things that you don't want to do. Common mistake number 1 is doing too much because you feel good. This is the absolute danger zone, and if you feel good and decide you're going to go hard, I can almost guarantee that you're going to overcook yourself and something will flare up, and then you're not going to be a happy camper in the few days after that. Mistake number 2 is returning to your previous training volume, intensity, or frequency way too quickly. Your fitness often does feel like it's there for you to handle it. However, you have to remember it comes back to the tolerance. You need the tolerance to be there to handle it, not just how you feel or how fit you are. Mistake number 3 is chasing pain-free running. This mostly just leads to fear and over-adjustment of the plan. Pain-free is often not a realistic expectation, so you need to just make sure that you're keeping it manageable as you progress back into the volume, intensities, and frequencies that you need to be at. Mistake number 4 is avoid the boom-bust cycle. This happens all the time, and I see it almost daily when someone comes to see me about not having a very good return to running program. And this is when you'll run really hard, something will flare up, so then you'll rest again, and then you just repeat that cycle on the regular. And the problem with this cycle is that it's not allowing you to build consistency. And when you can't build consistency, you can't build training progress, and you're never actually going to make it back to where you want to be. And this is often why people end up just quitting altogether. What does successful return to running look like? So this is something that people often feel a little bit in the dark about. You need to make sure you have slow and gradual progression. And the other thing about running rehab You'll know you're doing it right if it's a little bit boring and a little bit monotonous, because often to have good, repeatable, consistent sessions that you can build up and stack up over time and track and allow you to make meaningful adjustments to the plan, it's often really boring. It sucks. It's not mentally engaging at all. But training is not a circus act. It's not entertainment. It shouldn't be that way. Training is something that, yes, maybe you do it for fun and enjoyment, but it's the process that you need to get back to where you want to be. And you need to just suck up the boredom, work through it, and if you deal with it and have patience, you will get back there to be able to hit some PBs again. The thing is, good rehab is often a lot slower than you would like it to be, but it does bring the best long-term success. Remember, progress is not one perfect run. It's increasing what you can tolerate over weeks and over months. And when you build up enough consistency and you build up enough tolerance, it gets you to a place where your training is super fun and enjoyable. So in summary, most people do not fail return to running because they start too early. It's because they go back and they start way too aggressively. The goal for returning to running shouldn't be just to run again, but it should be to run again consistently. Remember, your body adapts to the running you can repeatedly tolerate, not the runs that just flare you up and cause you to have setbacks. If you are a runner or someone who plays a running sport, this will help you get back to where you need to be so you can tolerate more training load. And if you do want more information on how you can build a body that's not going to break down on you, click on this video just here because that'll show you how to get there.